Welcome to the Climb Your Everest podcast, a platform where we delve into the incredible stories of women who have triumphed over their personal challenges and are making a profound impact on the world. I'm your host, Sara Safari, and I'm honored to be the founder of Climb Your Everest, a nonprofit organization passionately committed to offering education and empowerment opportunities to marginalized women, enabling them to unleash their true potential. Joining me as a co-host on this exciting journey is Avi. Together, we are on a mission to bring you inspiring narratives that will uplift your spirit, ignite your passion, and motivate you to climb your own Everest.
Hi, Sara.
Hi, Avi.
So far in the past 4 episodes, we learned about the Climb Your Everest mission, how you started it, some of the work that you do for the girls in Nepal. And really, Sara, it seems like you are kind of a role model for these women, and that your mountain climbing has been teaching them to push their limits, right? Push their limits beyond beyond the boundaries that is in their mind. Now, I want to learn more about your personal growth and self-discovery during your climbing journeys, and how you kind of use mountain climbing as a catalyst to self-reflect, and what was your personal growth journey?
I feel like I kind of started talking about it a little bit in episode 1, which I shared a little bit about the first few mountains that I climbed and I failed, and I never wanted to go back climbing, and kind of getting to know the organization Empower Nepali Girls was my inspiration to go back into the climbing. And I shared a little bit about how I had zero experience coming into it, because I remember first when I wanted to do mountain climbing, remember in the seminar that I said I was sitting in a seminar and the leader of the seminar said, come up with an impossible project. And I decided to climb Mount Everest. I went home and I Googled how to climb Everest. And there was like a lot of information about Everest. Of course, I had zero ideas. And then there was a link, there was a phone number. I called them and I asked, I want to climb Everest, what should I do? And they said, well, there is this Mount Whitney 3 hours from you. Go climb that. If you still want to climb mountains, come back, call us again, and we'll tell you what's next. And they said a bunch of mountains where I've never heard of them before. I didn't even know they are mountains. I thought he's speaking a different language. Like, go climb Aconcagua and Chiboyu and Antisana and Cotopaxi. And I just heard these words and I didn't even know they're mountains. And but then I knew Mount Whitney. I heard about Mount Whitney before, so I got really excited and I started reading about it. And I figured it's kind of close. I have to go try it at least. And the first time I decided to climb Mount Whitney was in winter. It was actually February 15th. After a huge storm, there was like 3 feet of snow on the mountain. But I was very excited because I thought, Mount Whitney is half of the size of Everest. And if I want to climb Everest, I should be able to climb a mountain half the size first. And then I can go and climb Everest. And I thought winter is even better because, that's how much I didn't know anything about anything. And I thought, winter is even better because there's going to be even more snow. But it's very dangerous. So for whoever is listening to me right now, don't do this. Don't show up in the middle of winter. I just got extremely lucky that I survived this. So, and yes, it was the scariest thing.
People, that is just so crazy. You know, I read that piece in your book and I lived every moment with you in it because I climb Mount Whitney often, and I just can't imagine how you survived that first night. People die in those conditions, and you know, can you talk about how you kind of overcame that mental state? How did you, you know, it's at night, it's cold, your sleeping bag is wet, it's, you know, you're freezing. How did you not give up? I feel like if I was in that situation, I would probably just sleep there and say, well, this is it. I'm going to sleep and die right here.
So for people who haven't read the book and don't know this story, I was alone in Mount Whitney in a lot of snow, and by accident, I poured water into my sleeping bag, and I didn't take a tent with me, and I wanted to shake the water off my sleeping bag because my sleeping bag was wet, and I jumped on my sleeping pad and I made a hole in my sleeping pad, and so the air went out. So imagine at 12,000 feet for the first time, a person who've never been in elevation before. I'm cold, I'm shivering. The wind is so strong that's brushing off the snow from the summit into my sleeping bag. I'm shaking so badly. I'm crying. I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going to die. For those of you who probably watched my TEDx talk, you watched my crying video where I'm saying goodbye to my family and apologizing to my parents and saying how much I love them and kind of saying goodbye. And so basically that was like the first bad experience that I had on the mountains. And Avi, you asked me about the mental health. I think that moment I was not very clear of exactly what's going on, but what I knew is, like, when it comes to survival moments, is that you find every single little bit of strength you have everywhere, anywhere in your brain and your body to survive. So I started exercising inside my sleeping bag to kind of survive it. I was just moving so much inside the sleeping bag to keep myself warm because I thought, this is it, I'm dying. So I guess if there was anyone else other than me, that's what they would do. They were just trying to stay warm. And I kind of tried to stay awake all night.
So really it's overcoming your fears, right? You know, like the dark, the cold, death, and I think you went through the worst of it.
Yeah.
During your very first training session. It wasn't even, you weren't even, you know, you're like, oh, Mount Whitney, like I haven't even climbed anything else. I'm gonna go. And like it was the worst of the worst that I can imagine. So
I learned later that people train years for Mount Whitney. And so I started from, that's how I started. Well, of course I felt a lot of fear throughout the night because I kind of went inside my wet sleeping bag at 7 p.m. and until 7 a.m. I was like shaking the whole time, and I was kind of ready to die or be eaten with some sort of a wild animal or something. But it's kind of the whole night that I was feeling like this fear of darkness, fear of cold, and fear of being alone, and fear of death. Like I was experiencing all of that. In the morning, like 7 a.m., when I saw the first sun and I started running down the mountain, I figured my fears are coming from my past experiences, and they don't have any power over me. They couldn't do anything. I still survived it. And I didn't want to let them lead my life anymore. It's kind of, there was the moment of clarity for me where I figured that I have so many fears in my life and they are not relevant. And then later on, I studied that the amygdala, the oldest part of our brain, is responsible to saving us. So it's responsible for detecting any unsafe situation and keeping us like living a small life, like a safe life. And so my brain, my amygdala really wanted to keep me safe. And but then it's not relevant, even though in this specific scenario on Mount Whitney it could be relevant. But me exercising inside my sleeping bag and kind of keeping myself hydrated, that was the way of survival, not staying with my fears. And I started using that lesson in all the mountains going forward. And that's what I like to teach and tell everyone who are kind of in the scenario where they're experiencing doing something that is out of their comfort zone and something new. Of course, all of us, when we do something that we never tried before, it is scary. We experience a lot of fear and a lot of self-doubt on what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not smart enough? And all these voices in our head were kind of wanted to stop us from trying something new. That night on Mount Whitney, I learned how to control this voice. And I kind of took the voice in my hand and I knew how to control it from that point on. And I not let it lead my life anymore. And that's what happened.
That's pretty amazing. I still have that. I don't, that's still there. That voice is always there. So how about for Mount Everest, 29,000 feet? How did you train? What were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did training for that and going through that process helped your personal self-growth and journey?
Well, there are so many lessons learned from high altitude mountains. Like before Everest, when I tried CYE, which is the sixth highest mountain, that took 45 days. Kind of being on a high altitude mountain, or Everest 29,000 feet, that takes 60 days. It involves a lot of going back and forth on the mountain. And every time you go back down the mountain, I kept thinking, summit is that way, why I'm going backwards? But then it's like a very necessary part of acclimatization for high altitude, right? Our body is not supposed to survive in such a high altitude. So for us to be able to adapt to this certain elevation and kind of be safe because of all the altitude sickness and all the risks that comes with it, associated with it, this process has to happen. So we do a lot of rotation, which we go up, we come down, we go up, we come down. And then I learned that this is how our life is. This is how our normal life is. We never reach our goal in one shot. If you want to become the CEO of the company, VP of the company, it's never a one single shot, one way to get VP on the first company. No, we usually go get a job, kind of get some experience, fail even sometimes, go back down to a lower elevation, kind of rest and relax and gain some weight and kind of get a better perspective of the situation, then risk it and apply for a new job, a new position. We go higher to a new elevation, and then sometimes we fail again, then we come down to a lower elevation. So even our relationships, it's like nothing happens in one shot. We go the kind of start a relationship with someone and then it doesn't work, get divorced, break up, whatever, and then we come down and then we relax and we kind of reflect and we learn and we analyze and we're like, okay, this was not it, maybe I should try one more at something else. And we go up and down this mountain of life, up and down and up and down and up and down, until we are ready for the summit or summits or whatever thing we are doing. And it's kind of the process of acclimatization became my life lesson. I started acclimatizing everywhere in life and not looking at coming down the mountain as a failure, because it's not a failure. It is just, oh, I need a better perspective. I need to change my path.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's as easy as that. And acclimatization became my everyday life. So it is not failure. It is just trying something new.
That's the best analogy. When when you're in the zone and when you're on the mountain, you have one goal and you're like, I gotta summit. So looking at it through that lens that you're describing and looking at life that way.
Yeah, and it actually becomes less about the summit, because then now it is not about the summit anymore. It's not about becoming the CEO. It's not about having that perfect relationship. It's kind of about, what am I learning in the journey as I'm going up and down?
Right.
It becomes about the journey, not, I mean, it's kind of cheesy. Everybody says it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But it's sort of, this is it. This is it. It's really about the lessons learned along the way.
Yeah. So, you know, when you are on such a big mountain, there's a lot of different people involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does all of that come to play?
Well, yeah, so like on these high altitude mountains, when we climb with a group, there are people from all walks of life, different sorts of people that I don't even know, I never met before, different nationalities, different backgrounds, you know, different colors and languages and religions and ethnicities. It's kind of very diverse group of people, but with the same goal. So sometimes we need to learn how to work together and communicate together and talk together in very challenging situation, in harsh environment, in negative 40 degrees, when we haven't slept for a few nights, when we haven't showered for a long time, when we don't have access to real restrooms. And it's kind of like we are under so much pressure, and then you're on a wall, like an ice wall, and you need to climb and you need to communicate with this person coming from the other side of the world, where you might not even speak the same language, and somehow you need to find a way to communicate because your life depends on it. So I think I learned a lot about communication and teamwork and being flexible and adapt to different situations and be okay with uncertainty, because that's what the mountains are. So even though it seems like I've been climbing a lot, but I'm learning a lot of life lessons that I'm able to teach it to my students at university, and the girls who are part of the nonprofit from all over the world. So it's kind of the team dynamics, and what I learned working with people from different backgrounds have been so informative and educational for me, like learning how to trust, how to support, how to bring unity. And of course the leadership of the group also does a lot of work to make that happen. So it's been such a learning experience, which I can't wait to delve into maybe in the future episodes and talk more about it and share even more stories. But there are so many lessons that can be shared from climbing mountains.
Yeah, and I think it's worth, maybe in our next episode, we'll kind of open up more about what you did to kind of mentally prepare and find the mental strength to push through some of those really hard moments that you've written about in your book. Mm-hmm. And really through this experience, you know, you've learned about leadership, you're practicing it, you've learned how to overcome fears, and you are teaching it. So really you're walking the walk, and by pushing your own limits, and you practice what you preach, which is something that I think the girls are looking up to, right? That, you know, she's doing what she says she's gonna do, and she's continuously doing it. So in our next episode, let's talk more about some of your preparations and what you did to get in the zone and get into that Zen zone and be able to overcome the challenges.
Perfect. Thank you. Sounds good. At Climb Your Everest, our mission is to provide access to education and resources to marginalized women so that they can gain the skills and knowledge they need to succeed in their lives and communities. But we can't do it without your help. 100% of your donation is tax deductible and will go directly towards funding our programs, including scholarships, educational material, and mentorship. So please visit our website, climbYourEverest.org, and make a donation today. Every little bit helps. It costs $25 to sponsor one girl to participate in empowerment workshops for a month. If you're interested, please contact me at Sara@climbYourEverest.org. And together, we can empower marginalized women to climb their own personal Everest. Thank you for your support.